Howdy y'all and welcome back. BeGunners episode 9. So far in this series we've been narrowing down choices leading to our first firearm purchase. And of course you made the right choice and you picked a compact striker-fired semi-automatic 9mm handgun. Maybe. If you didn't, that's okay. If you're in some totally other direction or you inherited something else or whatever, that's fine. Stick with me. A lot of what I'm going to talk about here will apply to other types of semi-automatic handguns or even long guns. All right, so you made that first purchase, you get the gun home, now what? Before you take it to the range, you want to get some familiarity with it, you want to get your hands on it, and you want to practice the operation of it so that you are less nervous that first time at the range. When you are less nervous and you feel more educated, you will perform better and you will be safer to yourself and to people around you. All right, so let's take it over to the table and get a closer look. All right, we've just made our first firearm purchase and we've gotten home and we're ready to get familiar with our gun. Right now, today, this is when we begin implementing safe gun handling practices. What you get yourself in the habit of doing at home will translate over to how you handle guns at the range or in a training class or in a real world environment. You must begin safe gun handling from day one. So I open my box. I am quite sure, like pretty much positive, that when it went into the box, it was unloaded, right? Like I checked it, the clerk checked it, put it in the box. I walked out of the store with it. I drove home with it. Nobody put any bullets in it. So I know it's unloaded, right? So what's the first thing we're going to do? We're going to check and verify that it is unloaded. So the way that this gun is currently oriented would make it a little awkward. I mean, I can come around and pick it up like this. What would make this a little easier is I can turn it the whole case like that, or being very careful to keep my finger off the trigger, I can turn it like that and then go ahead and pick it up. This area right here of the frame, some instructors will even prefer that you put that index finger, that trigger finger up on the slide. I don't go quite that far, but this right here is the zone for me. Not dangling over here, not down here. Right here, get in the habit of when you pick up a gun, your finger just, boom, lands right there. That's the spot. And now I'm going to hold the slide firmly, and instead of trying to pull the slide back towards me, I'm actually going to push the frame of the gun forward while engaging the slide lock, slide release lever. Now this will look different on pretty much every gun manufacturer. Sometimes they're a little longer, sometimes they're a little more forward, but it's generally, if you have like a manual safety or a decocker, the slide lock is generally almost always, I think, going to be the one forward towards the muzzle. So the lever that is farthest forward, that's going to be the one that locks the slide back. So I'm going to get my thumb ready to give upward pressure right here. I'm going to grip the frame and I'm going to push the slide forward while sweeping that thumb up. This will just take practice, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. Now I have locked the slide to the rear and I can visually inspect. There is no magazine, there is nothing in the chamber, and there's nothing on the breech face. All right, so those are our 3 points we want to check: magwell, chamber, breech face. This gun is now safe and clear. While I'm doing this, I am pointing it in the safest direction possible. If you can do it while pointing down, like at your desk or towards the floor of your whatever room you're in, that would be great. That may not, when you're, if your gun is real stiff and new, that may be challenging for you. Find the safest direction to point the muzzle while doing this. Now you have checked it. It is clear. We're going to go ahead and lower the slide by depressing that same lever. So to lock the slide back, see if I can do this cross-handed, upward pressure, that locks the slide back. To release it, press down. Now you can just drop it. It's not the end of the world, especially on a striker fired handgun, but it's loud and obnoxious. And so, you know, if you want to get in the habit of gripping the slide while depressing the lever and riding it down slowly, that's great. Either way, whatever, it's your gun. But now we have verified that this weapon is safe and clear. So if I want to begin doing some dry practice or getting familiar with my green dot there, doing some ups, or working on my handgun grip, I know that this gun is safe. If I set this gun down and go use the restroom, or go check on a noise, or whatever, anytime this gun leaves my hand, the first thing I'm going to do when I pick it back up is 3 points, magazine, breech face, chamber, gun is clear, and now I can proceed with whatever I was doing. All right, set it down, turn my head briefly. Not a bad idea. Go ahead and before you move forward with doing anything, check it. Just get yourself in the habit. It can seem obsessive, it can seem obnoxious. There is no such thing as being too safe when you're handling a firearm. Even if you know that it's unloaded, all right? So now we have, again, confirmed that this is unloaded. I have here some snap caps, and I am going to recommend strongly that if you have just made your first gun purchase, order yourself a set of snap caps. These are some Tipton. Obviously they are for a 9mm Parabellum. If I can get the camera to focus there, you'll see they have a little spring-loaded, get in close there. So they've got a little spring-loaded primer right there, so that when the striker or hammer hits the striker, plunger, whatever you got, depending on your gun, that is going to give just a little bit of a impact absorption. Just saves a little wear and tear on your gun. You can also use just plain like 3D printed ones, whatever you got. The purpose here is for practicing our loading and unloading. So if you have never ever loaded a magazine before, you've got a follower under a spring. So there's a spring in your magazine that pushes that follower up. I'm going to have to fight that spring to get the plunger to go down. Obviously you want to have your bullets facing the direction that they would come out of the barrel, right? So, and then I'm just going to take the next one. Now here, I like to push with this finger and get a little head start, and then I'm going to slide that next one in on top. You can practice this with live rounds. If you're going to practice loading and unloading your magazine with live rounds, good idea, just put your gun somewhere else. Don't have it just right there in arm's reach. And so, okay, so now I've got some snap caps loaded into my magazine. So now I can practice loading. So I'm going to insert and I'm going to firmly push in. So firmly push in. I'm going to give a little tug to make sure that it is seated properly. I am keeping my finger on the frame. And again, I'm going to grab the slide and I'm going to push the frame of the gun forward while locking back here. All right, so now I can see there's my snap cap. When I release, I now have a loaded gun. So that's the chamber, it's in there, seat that forward. Now the gun is loaded. If this was a real bullet, I would want to be extremely careful. I'm not a fan of loading a gun for the purpose of anything other than getting it ready to carry, in which case I would very safely, without muzzling myself, it's going to go straight into a holster. Now the trigger is protected, the gun will not go off, and if I need to put this on my person, I move forward with that. But for today's lesson, we're just talking about the practice of getting familiar with loading and unloading. So I want to unload the gun. How do I do it? Well, it would seem probably intuitive, but the first thing you're going to want to do is remove the magazine. You are still being extremely careful with this index finger, and you're going to grip firmly and again press forward, and now I have ejected. Now I'm going to lock the slide back. Check, check, check. Gun is clear. So what would happen if I did not remove the magazine first? So I want to unload the gun and I'm like, oh God, how do I get the bullets out? Well, if I just rack the slide, okay, so now I've got one chambered. If I don't remove the magazine and I just rack the slide and do that, I have ejected the one that was in the chamber, but now I have a new one in the chamber. So that is why we have to remove the magazine first, firmly eject the round. Check, check, check. Gun is safe and clear. All right, we're going to skip ahead a couple of lessons because I want to address this topic in this video. So, first time to the range. I've got my gun in my bag, or it's in the case in my bag, and I take the case out, and generally you're going to have a table of some sort, some kind of surface in front of you, and that is where the targets are. So the top of the screen is downrange for the purpose of this discussion. That way would be the stall next to me. That would be the other stall next to me, and that way is me and everything behind me. So when I get to the range and I take my gun out of the bag, I'm going to keep it muzzle down as it comes out of the bag. And then I'm going to bring it straight from muzzle down, being very careful not to muzzle very far this way or this way, and damn sure not back this way towards me. Keeping the muzzle straight down at the ground. I'm going to approach the table in front of me and turn it like this. Obviously, if you're left-handed, this would be mirror image, but I'm turning it like this, down range, and I'm going to place the gun like that. Then I can go ahead and get my magazines or whatever else I need ready, get my earphones on, get my eye protection on. Now I'm ready to load my gun and start firing. I got my target all set up. Here's the next tricky one. Do not pick up your gun and load it like this. You are now muzzling everybody to your left. That is a no-go. Same thing with if you're left-handed and no, don't do it. So the gun comes off of the table. You're going to turn it over while keeping the muzzle down range. Now I'm going to insert my magazine. I'm going to rotate it back over. Now I'm loaded. I can press check it if I want to. You don't really need to obsessively press check. That's a little annoying, but if you need to, fine, whatever. I have verified that there is a round in the chamber, and now I'm ready to begin shooting. All of this can be done while keeping the muzzle straight down range towards the targets. So I'm shooting, I'm shooting, I'm shooting. Ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. What do? I've got one in the chamber. I've got a few rounds left in the magazine, and they're calling for a ceasefire. Oh my God, what do? Drop the magazine, eject your round. Check, check, check. They will probably prefer you lock the slide back and set your gun down like that. Most ranges, if they call a ceasefire because somebody needs to go downrange and check on something, they will prefer that you leave the gun staged, slide locked back like that, and then step away from the firing line And that lets the range officer who has to go down range or do whatever he's got to do, that lets him know that this gun is not only safe and clear, it is out of battery and cannot go boom. All right, and here's one more tip. Okay, so we're going to pretend that this is down range. That's where the targets are. I'm shooting, and I want to drop my magazine. But let's say my thumb is too short to reach the magazine release. There's going to be a tendency to want to turn the gun like that in your hand to hit that because it brings it closer to your thumb, right? This can freak some range officers completely out or other shooters at the range. Different ranges are different. Some ranges won't mind at all, but at some point there's here and then all of a sudden maybe you're here and oh, now you're here. Get yourself in the habit of keeping the muzzle exactly straight down range. And if you need to cant the gun, turn your body this way. Now my arm is at an angle and then I can reach the button. All right? So turn yourself a little bit, drop that magazine, okay, as opposed to doing this guy. Just get in the habit of that now, before that first range trip. So same deal. I'm shooting. I need to drop my magazine. You can see from that angle, that doesn't look kosher, right? I'm getting dangerously close to breaking the 180-degree plane. Really, it should be far inside, like way far inside. You've got really more like a little 45-degree slice of leeway there. Just keep it pointed straight down range, okay? So turn myself a little bit, drop the magazine, load a magazine, move forward. All right, y'all, practice this stuff at home and get yourself some snap caps. I know you're feeling tapped because you just bought the gun and you had to get some ammo and you need to order a holster and you want to get a gun belt. Get yourself some snap caps. They are so priceless. They are inexpensive and they will last forever. And you're going to want to have them for your dry practice, your at-home practice. Just pony up, buy once, cry once, get it over with now so that you can start developing these good habits before your first range trip. That way you don't have to have people yell at you. All right, y'all. So that's all I got for this episode. Until next time, be easy, y'all.